Hello and welcome back to my channel, My Apprentices of Mathematics. This is your coach, Mr. Magno. We're looking at lesson 8 today. And we're going to round a given decimal to any place using our understanding of place value and vertical number line. Okay, so let me underline that. So we're going to use the understanding of place value, sorry, it's over here, place value, and also our understanding of vertical number lines to help us. But we're going to look at something, a composition first. So let me take you to composition. Let's talk about decomposition. That's the word, not composition, decomposition. Okay, decomposition is, generally speaking, decomposition is, let me get this over here. The process, let me just underline, the process of breaking down complex entities or structures into smaller subparts. Okay, let's look at a couple of things. In this case, there is a composition and in nature. We have plant decay in here on this picture, and that those plants, that this trunk is going to decompose into a smaller part, and it's going to be right into the soil again. Okay, and so that is the decomposition, and there are fungi who do take care of that part. So they decompose those plants into smaller parts. We have another aspect of the decomposition here. We have an animal that is dead, and now it's going to decompose. And we have the decomposer here are the ants. They are the decomposers. They break it down. They break down the animal into smaller parts, and then it goes into the soil. Okay, so that's also decomposition. So you get a complex structure, and it's going to be broken down into smaller parts. And there is one more example I have for you. Let me just get it from here. Also, an orange is decomposing, so it's going to break down into smaller parts. So this orange is going to no longer look like it. It's going to break down into smaller parts, so it's going to decompose. Okay, now how is that related to mathematics? Well, in mathematics, we decompose numbers. So let's say you have a number here. You have, I'm going to make it simple so you can understand it. So if you have 100, right? So that's, you just imagine that all these are zeros here. So that's 100. Okay. Now, if we decompose this 100 into a smaller part, it's going to be into ones. So how many ones are in 100? I mean, my apologies, into tens. So my understanding is that there are 10 tens into 100. So that means we're going to divide it by 10. And now we have to have 10 of these things right here. 10. So this becomes 10 tens. Now, this can be decomposed as well into smaller parts, which are ones. Now, we know that 110 has 10 ones. But if we have 10 tens, that means 100 ones. Okay? And if we continue the process again, and this is what happens, you are dividing by 10. Again, if we're going to decompose 100 ones, 100 bills of ones, we're going to divide this by 10 again. This actually is divided by 1/10 because it's divided by 10 parts. Remember that this is 1/10, this is 100, and this is 1,000th. Okay, so the more you go to the right, the bigger the number is going to get. So now we're going to add one more zero to that number. It's going to be 1,000 tenths, and it's going to continue. We're going to continue decomposing. So this is what decomposing is. Make sure you understand it. Rewind it if you're not sure. Okay, now let's look at something important too. We're going to look at two sentences that you need to know. The value. What is a maximum value? Let me underline the word maximum value and the minimum possible value of a decimal when we round a number. Let me explain. So here we go. Let's say you have a number. I'm going to start simple. You have a number that is It's going to be 1.1. So you only have one digit to the right. Okay. And now you know that this number 1.1 is between two numbers, is between 1. So because this is the number that dictates the whole thing, and 2. And the midpoint is going to be in the middle, right? 1.5. Now, for easiness, for you to understand it better, you can place a 0 tenth. And then you can say 1.1, that'll be 1/10, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.5. Then you continue 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, and then 2.0. Now, 1.1 is going to be exactly right here. 1.1 is going to be located here. Okay? Now, when it's located there is really close to 1.0. So that means this number is going to be round to 1.0. Now, that's the minimum value. That is the minimum value to round to 1.2 to 1.0. Now, what other values can you use to round to 1.0? Well, the other values will be right here. Is 1.2. The other value is 1.3. And the other value is 1.4. You cannot use 1.5 because 1.5 will round to 2. Okay? So now here's the next part. What is the maximum possible value of this number to be rounded to 1? And the maximum possible value of this to round 1.1 to 1 is the maximum is 1.4. So this is the minimum and this is the maximum. Okay, let's do one more so you can understand it better. Let's say you have 27 point, let's do 27.6. Okay, so you have that number. Let me just erase that. So now we're going to start with 27. So our lowest number is 27. So that means this number 27.6 is between 27 and 28. And again, the midpoint, since this is 0.0, the midpoint, and this is 0.0 here, the midpoint should be 27.5. Okay? Now we're going to find the place for 27.6. And you can clearly see 27.6 is right here, 27.6. Now, this is going to be 27.7, 27.8, 27.9, and then we have 28. Okay, now here's the question again. Let me erase what I did a little bit ago. Let me delete this. And the question again is, what is the maximum possible value of this number to round it? Oh, first of all, let's decide this number is going to round to 27.0 or 28.0 or 28. That's it, because it's closer to the number than 27.0 or 27. Now, what would be the minimum possible value of this to round to 28? Because we're going to round to 28, and the minimum possible value will be 27.5. Any number above this is going to round to that number. So that's the minimum possible value. What will be the maximum possible value to round to 28? And the maximum possible value will be this number here, which will be 27.9. Okay? So those are the examples for you to understand. Let's do another one, and this is going to be a little faster, so the video is not that long. So let's say you have 2.3. So again, we're going to start with 2. So here's going to be 2. And 2.3 is between 2 and 3. The midpoint, again, if you place a 0 here, the midpoint is going to be 2.5. And 2.3 is going to be, okay, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. So 2.3 is going to be, let me use a different marker, 2.3. Okay, that's going to be 2.3. And if we continue, it's going to be 2.4 and then 2.5. Okay, so now you can see that this number is going to be rounded to 2.0. Why? Because it is closer to 2.0 than to 3 or 3.0. Now, what is the minimum possible value to round to 2.0? Okay, so the minimum possible value to round down is, let me use a different color here. It's 2 point, wait, the minimum possible value is 2.1, which is this one right here. That will be the minimum possible value. The maximum possible value to round down to 2.0 will be 2.4, which will be this marking right here. My friends, watch this amazing video about rounding and about decomposition. Your coach is wishing you the best, and I hope you understand every concept. And if you don't, I expect you to rewind it and review the part that you do not understand as many times as you need to. Signing out from Lesson 8, Module 1, your coach, Mr. Magno.